Welcome in. Let's just take a nice deep breath. It's good we've landed. We're here. We're on the platform of Studio B, and we're going to do about a 30-minute flow-based practice. And today we are operating from the inspiration of the story of Astavakrasana. And I've aligned this practice with Disability Pride Month. Because Astavakra was disabled. He had 8 different bends in his body, and the pose that is named after him is called the 8-bend pose or the 8-angled pose. And really, the story of Astavakra, the main takeaway is outside of his origin story, which is kind of a separate story for another time. When he originally showed up in the king's palace to be a teacher and a wise man, he was really ridiculed and mocked because of the way that he looked. There was this assumption that there was no way that he could be a person of value or intellect based off of how he looked on the outside. And yet the response that he gave to the king and the way that he lived his life ultimately became an example of how to live with whatever restrictions or challenges that we're given, and to just do our imperfect best with whatever it is that we have. And so that's the inspiration we're going to move from today as we work towards Astavakrasana. So let's start on our backs, because we're going to develop the intelligence of this pose from our backs. So once you get onto your spine, let's go ahead and bend the knees, bring the soles of the feet down to the mat, and we're going to start with cat and cow from our backs. So reach your arms up to the ceiling, flex your wrists back so your palms are facing up towards the ceiling, and then start to push the palms up and towards the ceiling. You'll feel the shoulder blades pull away from the mat, and then lift the tailbone and round the spine, almost like you're in that cat pose. Now move in the opposite direction. So you're going to take the bottom tip of the shoulder blades towards the pelvis. The pelvis is going to roll forward, and you're going to get like a bridge underneath the low back. And then start to move with the breath back and forth in this cat and cow. And if you're anything like me, sometimes just doing this on the back is a nice mental reset, because I have to concentrate a little bit more doing it in this orientation. Now, the next time you move through center, let's pause for a moment. Neutral spine, reach the legs up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to do almost like you're doing a press here. So press the palms to the ceiling, lift the chin a little bit, try to peel the shoulder blades off of your mat, and we're feeling the core kind of wake up here. Take one more full breath, and then move back into those cat and cow. So feet down, and we start to rock the pelvis back and forth. Shoulder blades moving up and down. Take one more of these reclined cat and cows. And then we're going to take Astavakrasana on the back. So lengthen your legs up to the ceiling. Cross your left ankle over your right. Bend your knees a little bit to create a window between the thighs. Thread the left arm through, and then push the palms diagonally to the right and up, and then squeeze your inner thighs together to squeeze your left arm. This is Astavakrasana, but on the back. Notice how there's a little bit of a twist. One more breath here, and then we're going to take a bridge pose. So soften the knees, take the arms overhead, place the palms on the floor, and then lift the pelvis up, opening the front of the pelvis. Couple breaths here. And this bridge should feel really nice as a counter movement to some of that early core work. And then we're going to take that Supta Astavakrasana on the second side. So let's let the arms float down, the spine float down. Lengthen the legs to the ceiling, arms to the ceiling. Cross right ankle over left, bend the knees for that window, right arm threads through, and then you're pushing the palms diagonally up and to the left. Squeeze the thighs on that upper right arm. Ankles across, beautiful. One more full breath here, a little bit of a twist, transverse abdominis working. And then coming all the way out, hug your knees into your chest. Rock back and forth a couple of times, and we're going to come to downward facing dog. So palms down, hips high, finding that Adho Mukha Svanasana. And we're going to start to build our sun salutations from here. So let's lower the knees to the mat, step the right foot forward, right foot forward, finding a nice low lunge. Fingertips can stay down this first round, just waking up the legs. And then step it back to that downward facing dog. And we'll move through a different vinyasa pattern today. Shift forward to plank pose. And then without lifting your pelvis, bend your right knee and bring it towards the right elbow. Give yourself a full inhale there. Good. And then lengthen right leg back and reestablish your plank. Switch sides, left knee to left elbow. Full inhale. Lower it down and back. Lower both knees gently to the mat. Take a moment, broaden your collarbones, look slightly ahead of you. And then lower chaturanga and pause. Feel the elbows squeezing the outer ribs. Lower all the way to the floor. Lengthen the arms alongside you. Lift up legs, arms, head, and chest. You're in Shalabhasana locust pose. One more full inhale. Press the palms to the mat, shift back to all fours. And we're gonna work with Lolasana, the pendant pose. Still developing that core awareness with that cat shape in the spine. So palms come alongside you. We inhale, we lengthen the spine a little bit. As we exhale, push the floor away, lift your knees and your shins. Feet can stay down this round. Inhale, lift up, lengthen a little bit. Exhale, 2 more of these, lift the knees and the shins. 1 more, inhale. Exhale, lift. And then lowering shins, hands forward, tuck the toes, you're back in that downward facing dog. Full breath in. Stepping that left foot forward, right knee down, couple breaths in this low lunge. And if we do some poses today that feel a little bit challenging, remembering we're not trying to achieve some external example of the perfect pose. We're just doing our imperfect best here. Step the right foot forward to meet the left, fold in, and then circle sweeping those arms out, up and back, and closing it out, palms together. Inhale, lengthen those arms, standing tall. Exhale, position 1, palms together. Moving a little bit more fluidly. Bring the arms forward, up and back. Long spines as you fold. Step the right foot to the back of the mat. Lower the right knee down. Sweep the arms up to the ceiling, Anjaneyasana. Take a full breath in here. Exhale, tuck the back toes, reach the right heel behind you, rise up to a high lunge. Lift the front rim of the pelvis up, core integration, open it up, warrior 2, Virabhadrasana 2. Taking 2 really steady, unrushed breaths here. One more inhale. As you exhale, windmill the arms down, step it back to downward facing dog, and we'll move through that vinyasa pattern. Shift forward to plank, pelvis low. Without lifting the pelvis, left knee to left elbow. And extend. Right knee to right elbow. Extend. Softly lowering knees. Broaden collarbones, smile. Lower chaturanga, pause. Feel that awareness of the arms hugging the sides of the ribs. Lower down. Lengthening arms, lift up, locust. Full back body awakening. And then shift the palms down, coming back to all fours. Moving into Lolasana. This time you have the option to play with lifting 1 foot at a time. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, push away, maybe lift the right foot. Inhale, you find the length. Exhale, you push away, maybe lift left. 2 more, inhale. Exhale, think cat in the spine. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Downward facing dog, hands forward, toes tucked, hips high. Give yourself a full breath here. We're flowing, but we're not rushing. And then step that right foot forward, left knee down, sweep the arms up to the ceiling. You're in Vinyasa. Giving your breath here, tucking the toes, keeping the pelvis low, extending through that back heel. Full in breath here, and then transition open on the exhale to your warrior two. Couple breaths to get steady and strong. One more inhale. Windmilling the arms, left foot will come forward to meet the right, folding in Uttanasana. Circle sweeping those arms, out, up, and back. And palms together. 2 more rounds of sun salutations. Inhale. Exhale, palms together. Inhale, forward, up, and back. Over the legs we fold. Take the left foot to the back of the mat. Coming into side angle here as you pivot and plant the left heel. Right forearm could come onto the right thigh, or right hand could be on a block or even on the floor. So lots of options here. Left arm up to ceiling. If you'd like to take a half bind here, you could internally rotate the top arm, place it on the low back, maybe finding the right thigh. And since we have a few more breaths here, if it's easefully in your practice and you want to take a full bind, the right arm could thread underneath that right thigh, fingertips interlacing, scoop the right hip down and forward, and find a breath. One more inhale. And we'll step it back to downward facing dog and prepare to move through the vinyasa pattern of this practice, shifting forward to plank. Right knee to right elbow. Re-extend. Left knee to left elbow. Re-extend. Knees down, broaden collarbones looking forward. Exhale through that half chaturanga. Lowering to mat, extend arms, lifting up locust. Finding the breath here in the back bend. Remembering we're not striving for perfection. We're doing our imperfect best as we work with what we have. Palms down, shifting back to all fours. Lolasana, inhale here. Exhale, push the floor away and round. Inhale, we lift. Exhale, maybe you lift a foot. Inhale. And round and lift. Always moving with the breath. Inhale. Exhale, push away and round. Lowering down, planting the palms, finding downward facing dog. Looking forward, left foot comes forward. Right heel melts down. Left forearm could come to thigh, hand to block or to floor. Right arm to ceiling, side angle pose. Settling in here. If you'd like to take the half bind, you internally rotate that top arm, right hand to low back or maybe to left thigh. And then even if you know you're going to go for the full bind, I would encourage taking a breath here in the half. And then if you're moving on, you're just taking that stage by stage. Left arm underneath left thigh, fingertips interlace, scooping the left hip forward, and reestablishing that stability and spaciousness in the upper body. And then looking down, stepping right foot forward to meet the left, folding in. Circle sweeping those arms, out, up, and back. And palms together. Last round of flowing. Inhale, lengthen those arms. Exhale, palms together. Reaching forward, up, and back. Folding over those legs. Taking the left foot to the back of the mat, we're going to come into lizard pose. So walk the left foot over to the left edge of your mat. Drop the pelvis in line with that left knee. And we'll stay up on a high lizard for a couple of breaths so back knee stays lifted. Now what we're encouraging here, because we're moving towards Astavakrasana, we want the gaze slightly forward and down. We want the collarbones and upper chest broad and open. And then we lower the back knee and see, can I keep that alert, open quality and maybe come onto my forearms? Couple breaths here. So sometimes we approach this pose with more of a yin energy. But today we're really approaching it with a place from a space of alertness. And then we'll walk back up onto the palms and we're going to transition to seated. I'm going to turn to face you for this segment of the flow. So tuck your right knee out and you'll sit behind your right heel, coming to the mat. And then take your peace fingers, wrapping them around your left big toe, right fingertips out to the side, and come into an upright little extension. Left leg out to the side. And if it's more accessible to hold the back of the calf, you could do that as well, or if you have a strap, of course. And then we're going to take this into rock the baby. So bending the left knee and either holding on to foot and knee, or if it's pretty much there for you, to take the elbow bind, then you could do that as well. There's a story that's told, and later on in the practice, I'll read to you Astavakra's response. But when he first showed up to the court of the kingdom, he was absolutely mocked and ridiculed by the other learned men because they thought there was just no way he could be a wise teacher. Okay, and he had a pretty epic response to that. So we're either going to return back to the left leg coming out to the side, or you can work with compass pose, Surya Yantrasana. This really helps us get towards Astavakrasana. So left leg would come up and over the left shoulder like a backpack strap, and then I take my right hand to the pinky side edge of my foot. Left hand comes down and I lean a little bit into my left palm, and then I start to reach my left heel up towards the ceiling, pivot my body like I'm a sunflower looking for the sun, finding the rays of sunlight. This feels so good in the right side body. One more breath. And then we're going to come out of this and step back to downward facing dog as we continue on with our Vinyasa pattern. So from that down dog, I shift forward to plank. And then I take left knee to left elbow. And then extend it out. And then right knee to right elbow. And extend it out. I gently lower my knees. I smile my collarbones up and open. And then I lower into that half chaturanga. Feel that for a moment, squeezing the sides of the rib cage. And then lower all the way down, lengthen my arms and lift up to my locust pose. Waking up my entire back body. And then shifting just straight back to downward facing dog this time. And then we'll do the second side of that. So to make this transition easy, move your right hand into the middle of your mat a little bit, and then step your right foot forward into that new space you've got. And you'll find yourself landing right into that high lizard. Couple breaths here. So we're just systematically, the thing is by the time we do full Astavakrasana, the good news is you've already done all components of the pose, just piece at a time. So the full pose is just trying to sew it all together. Lower that back knee, and maybe if the space is there, come to the forearms for a couple breaths. And so whether you accomplish the quote-unquote full Astavakrasana today, I want you to leave this practice knowing you did all the components of the pose, even if you didn't necessarily do them together. So you should always leave with a sense of success. Coming up onto the palms, tuck those left toes. We're going to come to seated. So left knee comes out and come to sit behind the left heel. Peace fingers around the right big toe. And then reach it on out. Left fingertips can be out to the side. Just a little balance here. And of course, what we're working on is, can I lengthen my spine here while I'm seated upright? And then we'll come into that rocking of the baby. So either holding foot and knee or rocking. So after he had been ridiculed, Astavakra comes in front of the king and he says this. He says, these wise men are no better than shoemakers. He said, they only see skin. They do not see the Atma, the soul. They merely see the surface and they base their judgments only on this. And that is the occupation of a shoemaker who is always saying that skin is good and that skin is not good. They know nothing about the inner self. And it's like, okay. So the king bowed down and he's like, okay, I'll be your student. I'll learn from you because clearly you got it figured out. Take that right leg. We're going to come into that Surya Yantrasana sundial and see how does it feel to maybe put it on like a backpack strap, getting it up and over that right shoulder. And then we're holding onto the pinky side edge with the left hand. Right hand comes down. I drop into it a little bit and then I start to reach that heel up and pivot towards the sun. Notice that my left elbow is a little bent here, so I'm using the muscles in my arm so that I'm not dropping into my joints. And then coming out of that, and we'll close with one final basic vinyasa, these sun salutation sequences. So palms forward, step back to downward facing dog, and just a really classic vinyasa, shift forward to plank. Lower through that strong chaturanga, lift to upward facing dog, and then to downward facing dog. And then looking in the middle of the mat, jump yourself to seated and extend your legs forward for Dandasana. One more thing before we do that full Astavakrasana, bring those palms alongside you. I want you to think of the letter J, and I want you to think of your navel moving in the letter J. So in and up. And we're going to do that same thing with our pelvis. So as you inhale, lengthen through the spine. And then as you exhale, push the palms down and take your pelvis up and back. And hold for 10, 9, 8. We got some nice, we're doing this together. 4, 3, you're not in this alone. 2, 1, lower those hips down, super well done. Lengthen the arms up. Fold forward, 5 breaths, Paschimottanasana. And keep this relatively active. You can really feel the breath. Every inhale, we want to lengthen the spine. Every exhale, we want to drop in a little bit. So we're just surfing the breath. And then reaching the fingertips up, coming all the way up. Good news, bad news. You've only got one more time of that lift. But you've got one more time of that lift. So bring the palms down alongside you. Inhale, long, tall spines. Exhale, think of that J. Pelvis up and back. 10, 9, you've got this. 8, 7, push the earth away, round the spine. 6, 5, navel up and in. 3, 2, release. Inhale, lift up. Hands behind you, bend the knees, knees forward, upward facing table. This should feel good on the belly, good on the shoulders, kind of moving in that opposite direction. Give yourself one more inhale here. Coming to a seat, optional vinyasa here if you need to keep the heat building. Crossing ankles, palms forward, step it back, finding plank, chaturanga, up dog, down dog. Take a full breath here in this downward facing dog because Astavakrasana is coming. Jump through to seated. I'm going to turn to face you for this. So the unique thing about Astavakrasana is an arm balance, is it is both a pickup, meaning we have to pick ourselves up off the floor, which is why we just did that work, but it's also, it sits on top of chaturanga. So the chaturanga is like the cake, and the rest of the pose is like the frosting and the cherry. So we have to pick up and get into that chaturanga. So we're going to do this together. The good news is this practice is recorded, so you can always reverse and give it a second or third try. So left leg is going to be the foundation first. Right leg is going to come back up and over that shoulder. Now, if you start getting into this and you're like, there's just no way that I'm going to be able to link these things together, work on your crow pose. That's the foundational arm balance. From here, palms down, lift your left foot and cross your left ankle over your right. Remember this from the warm-up? Now we've got to pick up. Hips are going to go up and back. Arms are going to go to chaturanga. Legs are going to squeeze. Hips up and back. Arms chaturanga. Legs squeeze. Look over towards the feet. Smile. Stay longer than the Polaroid moment. One more breath. And then get out of there. Super well done. Find a seat on the mat. Take a moment, feel your breath. One of the challenges of teaching while practicing is you can't take a normal breath in these poses. So for me, it's like, okay, time to concentrate on that exhale for a breath or two. And now we're gonna see that second side. Second side may be easier, may be harder, you never know. So we're gonna have right leg as the foundation. Left leg is gonna come up and over the shoulder. Get a nice hooking there. And then we're gonna place the palms a little bit out in front of us because we've gotta have somewhere to go. Right ankle crosses over left. And then hips go up and back. Squeeze the left arm with the legs. Chaturanga those arms. Look over toward the feet. Smile. You're doing whatever you're doing and you're amazing. And then coming out. Super well done. Extend those legs forward. Reach them up. Fold over those legs, 3 breaths, Paschimottanasana. Let the head hang. Let this feel restorative, calming. Recognizing that ultimately Astavakra gave us the example of how to use whatever we were given when we were born and to make the most of it. And the most important part of who we are is not the package that we come in, but the soul that we nurture on the inside. Let's start to reach the fingertips forward and up. We're going to come onto our backs, so make sure you've got space behind you as you control that descent down. And before we find our Shavasana, let's take just a mild spinal twist here so arms can come out to the side, bending the knees. Bring the knees in towards the chest and let them fall over to the right for a few breaths. And then bringing the knees up to center. And when you're ready, letting them fall over to the left. Maybe just thinking back if you have any preconceived notions about what it means to be someone that practices yoga. And inspired by Astavakra, we really know that a yoga body is any body that is practicing yoga. Bring the knees back into center. Extending the legs and the arms for about a minute-long Shavasana. Letting all of the work of this practice soak into the body so that it can truly be of benefit to us. Noticing if your mind is struggling to let the body relax. And sometimes I find it helpful just to say, the mind is thinking right now. Just naming that that is what is happening gives me permission to be in the moment. And then using your next breath or two, start to slowly reawaken your body in your own way, in your own time. And then over the course of the next breath or two, making your way gently back up to a comfortable seat. And before we roll up our mats and officially close this practice, let's give ourselves just a minute or so to find some stillness in the body. If you find that difficult, you might try just watching the breath. I'm going to really leave you with these few words that are a direct quote from the Astavakra Gita, which is the Gita that's written in honor of Astavakra. If you wish to be free, know you are the self, the witness of all these things, the heart of awareness. And so set your body aside and sit in your own awareness, and you will at once be happy, forever still, forever free. For you are everywhere, forever free. Let's bring the palms of the hands together to seal this beautiful practice in gratitude for the teacher of Astavakra, reminding us that the most important part of us is not the shell, not the container, but the soul that lives on the inside. Jai Shri Sakuru Maharaj Ki. Jai.